Welcome everyone. This is Getting Stoned with Shanks and Rome.
Sup, kids? Howdy, boys. Grab the couch, yaw some muck for, maybe a coffee if you're feeling frisky. Get ready to gain some mother freaking knowledge because we're going to hit you with some hard-ass facts.
Alright, so the story of the Shafia family. Shanks, I'm going to get you to give us a little bit of background information on who the family is, where they came from, and how this whole ordeal began.
Okay, kids, get ready to get told because this story's a whole lot of damage. Our story starts out with the father. His name's Muhammad Shafia. He was born in middle-class Kabul in the early 1950s. But he was not well educated. He did not reach the 7th grade. So that's just terrible. All around terrible. So because he only had, the smallest amount of education possible, he turned to entrepreneurial business and opened a small electronics shop in Kabul.
Shafia's first marriage was arranged to Rona Amir. The marriage was very abusive due to the fact that Rona was not able to conceive, even after fertility treatments. Shafia then married another woman in order to have children. His second wife was Rona's 17-year-old cousin Tuba, and they became a polygamous
a big old polygamous.
I knew I was gonna stutter on that one too, and I wanted to hand it over, but it was too late.
Also, quick question. If your husband marries your cousin and now your sister wives with your cousin, is that incest? How does that work?
Boy, oh boy.
That's gross. How would you feel about your husband getting down and dirty with your little younger cousin?
Yes, 17-year-old cousin.
Nursed.
So after the marriage, Tuba became pregnant with their first child, Zainab. She is the oldest daughter, and you'll find out more about who she is as the podcast goes on. Anyways, though, in the early months of this relationship, Rona became suspicious of Tuba. Tuba had very conniving behavior and was trying to scheme to gradually separate Rona from their shared spouse. As the marriage went on, Shafia started to disassociate himself from Rona, sleeping with Tuba 3 nights a week and Rona once, until they eventually actually, completely stopped sleeping together. How mad would you be if your cousin just came in and stole your man? It was
I'd be pissed. I'd be locked,
we have a
loaded.
shared agreement for sleeping arrangements, but I'm gonna take him every single day now.
No, that's not how that works. I'd be right tuned up. Let's just say that.
So as this marriage continued, Rona kept a journal. She would write, "My husband started picking on me. He wouldn't allow me to go visit my mother. And at home, he would find fault with my cooking and serving meals. He would find any excuse to harass me." So yeah, that was basically their marriage until he married the second wife and had kids. It did get worse after that, though.
Oh yeah, hold on. Kids did not help the situation at all.
So Shafia, they ended up leaving Afghanistan because at the time it was in the middle of the Afghan war. So when they left the country, they had 3 kids. They had Zainab, Sahar, and Hamid, their oldest and first son. They went to Dubai for a couple years, and he expanded his business. I think he got pretty rich.
But he got bank. But he got some fat bank. Let's get that down pat. But yeah, so they basically immigrated to Dubai.
Tried to go to Australia, but he was a fool, as Rona recalled.
Yeah.
And got kicked out because he didn't follow the rules of the visa. So after that happened, they then went to Canada. They landed in Montreal, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So
except not all of them went because Rona, which was the first wife, he couldn't come in with 2 wives, right, to Canada because polygamy.
It's against our laws.
Yeah, you're not allowed to be in a polygamous relationship in big old Canada. So Rona got left behind in Europe. So she's just chilling all by her lonesome while the rest of the family's out here prospering in the Great White North.
So Shafia was the ideal immigrant on paper. Within months of his arrival, he'd bought a $2 million strip mall in Laval. Most of it was in cash, so we all know he had bank. He launched an import-export firm that dealt in clothing, household goods, and construction material. And they ended up settling in the upscale suburb of Brossard to build his $900,000 mansion.
Oof.
With plenty of space for all 10 members of the clan. Himself, 2 wives, and 7 kids. So, May 7th, 2008 was when things really started to go bad for this family, right, Shanks?
Oh, yeah.
Quebec's Anglophone Child Welfare Agency received a call on May 7th, 2008, with tears from Sahar. She was sitting in her principal's office, spilling everything. She had attempted suicide earlier, due to they were struggling really hard, I guess, with the cultures, because her dad expected them to still wear hijabs and dress modestly and not talk to boys, but living in Canada, the freest country in the world, they were trying to go to a more westernized lifestyle and culture, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with their father's wrath, he did not take kindly to them doing that. She attempted suicide, and her actual mother, Tuba, was very, brutal about it, like, let her die, basically,
Pretty
because
much.
she wasn't following what her dad was telling them.
Pretty much.
Social workers followed up on the case, even though Sahar had begged them not to because she knew how her father would react. Because the social workers had to follow protocol, they met with the Shafias, and the family denied all accusations and threatened to involve their lawyers because the statements were completely false. 2 days later, the social worker returned to the school for a follow-up, and Sahar was wearing a hijab and did not speak. On Friday, April 17th, 2009, Zainab, the oldest daughter, ran away to live her own life, written in a note left to her family. The same day the news that she'd ran away got to her younger siblings at school, they were terrified of their father's reaction, so instead of going home, they went to a neighbor's house and asked to use the phone to call 911. Geeti told the police, she's one of the 3 daughters, told the police of an incident that happened at a mall the week before where Shafia pulled her hair and punched her in the face. She also told them without any hesitation that Shafia often threatened to kill them. The constable that arrived to see the children recalled seeing a mark near Geeti's eye, and when asked about what it was, Geeti had not disclosed a response. Her younger brother, in quotations B, the names of the 3 youngest siblings were, they have a publication ban on them, so they were never released to the public or to any news outlets.
Kids are underage, they can't have their names released.
Had told the officers, so this younger brother, B, had told the officers that their older brother, Hamid, kicked him and his father threatened to tear him apart. So also, I guess, Hamid, the oldest brother, he worked as eyes and ears when Shafia was out of the country, because Shafia spent a lot of time in Dubai with his business and going on business trips and all that. So the oldest brother
would discipline the family.
Exactly. Geeti and Sahar both said they wanted to leave their homes because there was a lot of violence and they were afraid of their father and older brother. No charges were laid against Hamid or Shafia for reasons that are unclear. All of this happened 8 weeks before the bodies of Rona, Geeti, Sahar, and Zainab were found in the bottom of a river in... Where were they? They were heading to Niagara Falls?
Yeah, they were on a road trip.
They were on a road trip. So the story of this, basically, now that we're at the part where we're going to tell you guys exactly what happened with this family.
This is where it gets turbo wild.
Yes.
Turbo wild.
So, Zainab, Sahar, Geeti, and Rona were all found drowned in the family's Nissan Sentra at the bottom of the Rideau Canal on June 30th of 2009. Police first suspected some kind of teenage prank until divers found the bodies of the 4 women seated in the sunken car. Also, this Nissan was purchased the day before for $5,000, so obviously...
It was a throwaway vehicle.
It was a... Oh, yeah. Examiners found bruises on Rona, Zainab, and Geeti's heads, which they believe was from stones being thrown at them, which we're assuming, and was also later found out, that Shafia had stoned them.
Hence getting stoned, boys. You catch our vibe now? Anyways, it makes sense, because, like, in the Muslim culture, it's, like, in the Bible, or the
Quran,
the Quran, yeah. It says that, like, if you don't follow the traditional, like, Muslim traditions, that you get stoned to death. So, beaten to death with a rock. Which, I mean, blunt force trauma to the head, what else does that say? Getting stoned.
So all of this actually started, though, because Zainab wanted to marry her boyfriend that she had behind her parents' backs. When she left to go be free, she left because of the abuse, but also because her parents wouldn't let her be with this boy that she was in love with. Mm-hmm. So as this was all happening, she set up an arranged marriage, and it was going well, and then her mother guilted her into not getting married. So from here, this obviously pissed off her father very, very much, and when he arrived home from the business trip and the marriage was off and everything, he kissed her, acted totally normal with her, was all, oh, everything's fine, and they went on a family road trip, which ended up with the 3 girls and the first wife dead.
So basically the story of this road trip was that they were all on their way to Niagara Falls, you know, big family of 10. The family split into 2 cars, so the silver Lexus SUV and a Nissan Sentra. So they're split into 2 vehicles, right? They show up at this motel, I guess, in someplace in Ontario. Kingston, Ontario. Showed up at a motel. They all settle in for the night, ready to go to bed. Zainab.
I'm ready to go to bed.
Freaking same. Anyways, so they stopped at the Kingston, Ontario motel en route to Montreal. Zainab grabbed car keys to go retrieve some clothing from his home.
No, that's the oldest sister.
What?
Hamid's the oldest brother.
Zainab? It says Zainab did it.
No, it was Hamid.
Okay, never mind. Hamid grabbed some car keys to retrieve clothing from his home. The next morning, the Nissan and half the family were gone, which later found out they were in the river. As more questions were asked by detectives about this whole situation, when the remaining 3 family members were interviewed about it, their story got really weird from that point on.